How we doing? It's good to see you. This is John Karsich. I appreciate you joining me live here. This is my first go around on YouTube Live. I've done private Zoom classes, master classes, but this is the first time I'm popping live on YouTube. And so, welcome for those of you joining live, those tuning in. I appreciate it. And my goal here is to share a little bit more about me briefly, so you know who's talking behind this screen, and then communicate with you about what's going on in terms of the current recruiting landscape and the stress behind it that I deal with parents and communicate to families specifically. And so we're gonna tap into that a little bit more. But first, welcome. Hit subscribe if you haven't. I appreciate that. I'm pretty active on YouTube. I'm very active on YouTube. Just about to post a video a day, and looking forward to growing that by just being more active here, getting away from other social channels, directing a little bit more to YouTube to have more engagement from that side of it. And so, first off, I'm John Karsich. I'm going to assume you know nothing about me, because that's what good coaches do. They assume that you don't know anything, and we're going to explain it from kind of ground zero. So I'll fly through that piece of it. And so, first things first. I'm from the Bay Area, California. I went to Santa Clara University, earned a scholarship there, and played 3 years at shortstop. Was a seventh round draft pick by the Angels organization, and played 3 years, 3.5 years of minor league baseball, a little bit of independent baseball, and then I knew I wanted to get into coaching, and so only opportunity I can get. I coached up in Alaska, then I got into Chandler Gilbert Community College for one season in Arizona. And then I reached out to every school that I can imagine, except for one school, and that one school called, and that was Stanford. And turns out I was there for 3 years. And then from there in 2017, when the head coach, late great Mark Marquis, known as Nine, retired, the assistant coach, Rusty Filter, got hired at Santa Clara and took me with him to my alma mater, where I was there for 7 seasons. So 10 years total, Division I baseball. I stepped away in 2024, so 2 seasons ago, to spend more time with my 3 young kids. I currently have 5, 3, and a 1-year-old. And so at that time, it was a newborn, 2-year-old, and a 3.5-year-old. And so, as you know, maybe as parents, you want to be present for your kid. That's what I value in my life. And but I want to do what I loved, and that's coaching baseball. That's giving back. That's sharing from experiences, because I've gone somewhere that most kids want to play. That's either Division I level. Going back to high school, that's an all-state first team all-state. San Francisco area player of the year, to first team all conference at Santa Clara, to a 7th round draft pick, to getting paid to play baseball. But then, as you circle back and you give back to the players, why coaches coach is to share experiences and let them learn from what you have done and what you've learned, and pass that along for growth purposes. And so, welcome here. A couple things. I mentioned the subscribe. I put in the chat my website, specifically to the shop part, where I'll give you a free PDF. It's called Let Them Be Free. It's a blend of how to mold a mental game with some athleticism. It's a little bit more tailored to probably 15 and under, but I'm going to assume once again that some of you here are youth parents, and you could benefit from that. If you're also on there, you'll see a recruiting playbook that I wrote based off my 10 years of recruiting, being a recruiting coordinator. Right now, that's 50% off in there because you're joining me live. You'll also see in there a Hitter's Journey Journal, probably my most proud work right here. It's a hitter's notebook that blends. It's not just logging games, but I've added a mental performance component to it, which I'm a big believer in. Essentially, that's what I do, is I blend recruiting with mental performance. I'll tap into that a little bit more. But with this in this book is you're going to get some mental models that I believe in, some affirmations, manifestations, and then it goes into practice segments. And so you're going to have the idea to log your practice on this page right here. and it's going to have, hey, what's your focus today? What's your mentality today? Give yourself a little check-in, and then post practice reflection. What's something you did well today 3 times? And then it goes into specifically, how are you going to do it? And then just rinse and repeat. And it's a way to put everything in one place. As we know, hey, I'm going to put it in my notes, in my phone, and then I'm going to write it down in here. I'm going to put it on my homework binder. And it's like, when I was going well 3 weeks ago, or I was struggling 6 weeks ago, what was my thought? And this allows you to put it in one place. There's over 80 practice days in there. And then it goes into a game component where you can log your actual at bats. So the game's over and you can go in there and you could essentially keep score. But then my big three that I believe in is, you get to ask yourself a question. There's 3 questions: was I on time as a hitter? Did I swing on my pitch? And then was it a quality at bat? And that's about the process. That's about the growth from that side of it. So that's a little bit about me. That's a little bit about what I do, my website. And tonight, as we get into this, I want to focus about where you might be coming from, right? To where it's like, I don't know you, I don't know your son, I don't know the family situation, I don't know the academics, so I don't know anything. So hopefully you could take one thing from this today, but it's like, we want to play college baseball. We want to improve as an athlete, and we think we're good enough. We think we're better than our teammate who's committed. We've gone to all these showcases. We've gone to the camps. We've sent millions of emails. We've spent a lot of time, but we get nothing in return. And the needle isn't moving on the recruiting side. And I'm here to kind of tell you, is like, this thing is hard. Recruiting is difficult. Okay. And we'll get into a little bit more strategic about like what we need to do, because the path hasn't really changed. The rules have changed. It's difficult, right? Like, everything's against us a little, but that's been the same story over time. 10 years ago, they were saying, hey, only 7% of people get to play at the next level. It's like, well, now it's shrunk to 5. Like, what's the difference, right? Like, we still have to be intentional about our work. So we'll get into really what the coaches are looking for when they're wanting to recruit a player. And so the big question tonight for you guys to really think about for your own situation is, who are you trusting? Okay. And what do I mean by that is like, well, let's look at who you're surrounding yourself with, who your son's surrounding himself with, first off, even when you're not around. Okay. And this is where you can have impact and a little bit of accountability. And so, like, a hitting coach, who's the hitting coach? And is your son improving as a hitter? Who's your travel ball coach? Is your son improving as a travel ball player on his team? Who's the strength coach? Who's the speed coach? Who's doing your marketing? Who's selling your exposure? Who's giving you Twitter advice, X advice? Who is telling you what to do within this process? And I get it. Like, some people here might have a dad who played baseball in college, and so he has a pretty good idea. Some people might be, engineers and didn't even play sport their whole life, but their son must be pretty good. They have no idea. There's always 2 sides of it. Okay. But the bottom line is, like, if we're trying to do something that 95% of the people won't do and only 5 will, then we got to be proactive about what we're doing, and you got to surround yourself with the right people. And how I explain it from my services is like, I don't replace anybody. I don't replace a high school coach. I don't replace a hitting coach. You are surrounding yourself with good coaches and good people, because it's all about the people in the bottom line. We'll get into that. That's a straight connection to college, the college recruitment right now, is how are they helping you? And if one person isn't helping you, then cut ties and move on to the next person that's going to help you, and put yourself in the situation. Because what we don't want is, we don't want to say, oh, shoot, yeah, we wasted 2 years with John because we thought it was going good, but we really didn't have no idea. Now all of a sudden that window's closed, and your son isn't going to be able to play college sports, or maybe his route's got to be a little bit different than what we could have been if we were proactive in that. Okay. And so, yeah, we'll get into a little bit like, what's proactive mean? Like, we got to work smarter and harder. Does that mean sending hundreds of emails a night and just overloading it to college coaches? No, probably not. Right. But depending on your own situation, maybe that's something we got to look into from that side of it. And so that's the big narrative. That's our focus. Another question that I really want you guys to, if you have a pen and paper, I would like for you guys to just write this down and keep this somewhere on your forefront throughout the whole summer, throughout the whole season. It's like when you're debating what camps we should go to, what showcase we should attend, what tournaments, anything, nutrition, coaches, batting practice, how will this help my child develop? And you want a clear answer on that, because the word develop is what it's all about. Okay. You develop your skills, you develop trust, confidence, poise, character, preparation, the whole package. And so we have to develop mentally and everything that comes within it. As coaches are going to want more of that. Okay. So let's start to get into, find my water here. Let's start to get into a little bit more of like what coaches actually want. I'm looking at checking it out here. Okay. And if you see me kind of glancing down, I have notes. I have a little script here that I've put together, of course. Don't want to be unprepared. Coaches don't like kids that are unprepared, right? And so, a couple maybe myths or thoughts of the recruiting, depending on the age here, right? But more exposure solves it, right? It's like, hey, we're going to do 8 different things this upcoming summer. We're not going to have one weekend at home. Man, I've seen those schedules. I've had those conversations with parents where it's like, we're going here, there, 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 there. You guys honestly should have an award for the planning that goes into some of these things, right? But more isn't always better. Case dependent, of course. Do I always recommend going out for every weekend and being away from home and playing? Like, it depends who you are, right? It depends if you're ready to be recruited or if you're still working to be developed. Okay. Earlier is always better. Not always the case, right? Sometimes that late bloomer pops up and he's an all conference player. That was me, right? I don't have a bias towards an earlier is better type of player, but it's not always the case. The biggest showcase is the best showcase. Not true, right? How are you going to stand out? How is this going to help your son develop after he leaves there? Will there be return on the investment when that weekend is over? And it might not show up the day after, right? Only a couple, probably a small percent, 1% of campers, whatever camp you're going to, are getting that immediate feedback and love from a school to say, hey, we like that. We want to see more. Everybody else kind of has to wait, right? And some people don't even get some form of feedback. All right. So as I mentioned, recruiting isn't random. There's always intentionality behind everything that you want to do, but it all stems from the recruiter, right? I've been in those shoes, and the head coach specifically, because the head coach's job is to win. I don't care what level. Well, I shouldn't say I don't care what level, but I'm specifically in my mind is like Division I level, Division II, Division III, towards the top. Like, the head coach has to put out a good product on the field, whether that means 500 at a school that might not have a huge standard, or if you're talking about a top 25 school, top 50 school, where if you don't have multiple winning seasons in a row, then you're canned and you're out. And so coaches want to win. And so what do we need to do? Well, we need to think about these questions. We need to think about from maybe a coach's standpoint. Let me give you this. It's like, can I trust your son? Can he handle failure and be ready to respond? Can he prepare properly? Can he fit within our culture? Such a huge one that people don't pay attention to. Can he help us win? Right? And if you look into like prepare, is he the hardest working guy in the weight room? Because a coach will call your son's high school coach, your son's travel ball coach, your son's inner circle, if you will, and they'll say, is he the hardest guy in the room? And if he's not the hardest guy in the room, he better have some serious skill on the field, because that work ethic off the field is going to drive the culture, and he's going to have to be a fit. Because if you think about it, a coach can only get 34 players per year. And so you kind of chop that down. Let's just say that they're getting 8 players per class, per your son's class. And if they call 100 players to kind of do some research on, which is pretty reasonable, maybe 75, to have some type of list that they want to recruit in your son's class, and they call 75 and they say, is he the hardest working guy? Is he the hardest working guy? 75 times. They want the 8, 9 hardest working dudes in that class that they're aware of. And then you put all those hardest working guys together in their program, and now you have a pretty good program. Though that's the research that coaches do that have a high standard. I've done it myself. I've passed on really talented players at the Division I level, whether it be Stanford or Santa Clara, when I was recruiting, and say, he's not a fit for what you want, head coach. It's not what you want. And so let's pass. Right. And he goes on, and you play against that guy in the conference or non-conference, and he might do well. He might not do well. He might not play. He might get booted, whatever the case is. But when a coach brings somebody into the program, there needs to be immediate return on the investment. The investment is giving you a scholarship, giving you a roster spot, giving you opportunity. There has to be something in return to help the program. Okay. Really gone are the days where, the coach says, hey, he's throwing 93, let's take him. Or at a lower level, hey, he's touching 90, let's take him. Like, there's no more flyers anymore. That's a huge difference of what I've seen in the past, really year to 2 years is, I'll give you an example. Like the the projectable 6'2" left-handed pitcher that throws, as a junior, right? Come August 1st, he's a junior summer, and he's throwing 82, 84, touching 86. That guy in 3 years ago, 5 years ago, would probably have offers from all top 25 schools because they're projecting a 6'2", 6'3" lefty who's going to throw 90, 92. They don't have to do that anymore. What do they have to do? They have to win now. That's the bottom line. So what do? Well, they don't go for that guy, because then they go down the street to the local JC and they say, where's your 6'2" lefty who's got more hair on his chin? He's been kicked in the face a little bit by his JC coach. It's figure of speech, not literally. How has he handled failure? How has he meal prepped and been responsible for being on campus for 8 hours a day and gone back, done his homework, rinse and repeat? Oh, and by the way, he's got 80 innings under his belt. That's hard to compete with if you're a high school guy. Man, it's really a no-brainer. It's almost, I don't like to use the word unfair, but it's like, who are you picking as a college coach? Kind of a no-brainer there, right? But you have to think about, like, how are you as a high school guy going to get your opportunity? Yeah. So those are things that really consider from that side of it. They're really filtering it down from consistency, maturity, preparation, and then character. The character is huge. I just got off a phone, and let me tell you where I'm getting my information, by the way, aside from my track record of just being ears to the ground. I work with guys on the recruiting side. And so I'm often calling coaches and texting, communicating with coaches, head coaches, recruiting coordinators, assistants about overall is like, hey, what's going on? What are you guys doing to this? If this situation comes up, what's happening for you? I'm getting my information there. I'm an under promise, over deliver type of guy. So I'm not going to come here and tell you I have all the answers. I have the crystal ball. Here's the magic fairy dust. Sprinkle it on and do it. Here, you're going to get a scholarship, because that's not what it is, right? Really, what we're doing is we're building a product, and your child's the product. And can't be trendy, right? It can't just be, I throw 93 one time, but I don't have any other secondary stuff. It can't be, oh, I've gained the 25 pounds, and why am I not getting recruited? There's tangibles behind it. Where's the IQ? Where's the feel? Where's the culture, the teammate? Where's everything that goes along with it? We're looking for a product that is a whole package, okay? And so if, for example, you come back to the product, right? And I'm going to get into the mindset here a little bit, because this is a huge separator from what coaches are. And I was just talking to a Division III coach just yesterday for half an hour on the phone, and it was my first communication with that program. And they were talking about, a particular player who, and they have some good returning players, all conference player, but they're like, our culture is dialed right now. We don't have to accept everybody. We don't have to take everybody, but we need to make sure that we are recruiting with purpose. And he went on to say, is like, what's he like on the field? What's he like when he responds? What is his academics like? Right? Because the academics tells a story, right? So all the good questions that come into it. So the mindset, right? The mentality behind it is what when a player gets to, and I don't this is open for anybody, and this could be compared really to any levels, to where if you're a high school guy wanting to play college, if you're a junior college trying to play a level up, or even if you're just in high school trying to play in your own season. The idea is that we have to think about the long game. And what do I mean by that? I like to say PTLG, play the long game. And if you follow me on any type of platform, I always kind of end my message with that. My newsletter, PTLG, play the long game. We're growing together. We're growing, because that's what it comes down to. And it really comes down to how we're preparing with intent, how we're responding to failure. Because in order to be great, you have to fail. That's the bottom line. Like Steph Curry in his book, and I break this down. I have a podcast, by the way, where it's like called The Athlete's Porch, where I break down certain players and I bring guests on, to where Steph Curry said it best. The best ones fail the most. And if you think about it, Steph Curry, the greatest NBA three-point shooter there is, he misses 54% of the time. The batting champ from last year, he failed 65, 66% of the time. Like it's crazy to understand that you have to fail to succeed. And as an athlete competing their tail off, trying to win a starting role, trying to get more playing time, trying to earn some form of scholarship, there's a huge balance between trusting that process and competing to win. And I can't quite put my finger on exactly what to do or how to do that in the moment. But as a coach, coaching the players, it's about really understanding, like, this game today, the result of it is going to make me better for tomorrow, as long as I accept it the right way. And that's why the journaling, that's why for example, like the hitter's journey notebook, like just get a black notebook. I'm not sure if you could see it here, but like all these books, I have one of those books about per year, and I just write things down. And for me, it allows to get those thoughts down on paper. And so when you are working the mindset, it's really about understanding your process and what works for you, and having reasons to, or something to go to when you start to kind of get off track. How quickly can you get back on track? And some things that I do, I'll share with you, is like breathing. I always talk about the breath. Just take a simple breath and you just focus on it. You're present. And if we're present, then we're not thinking about the scholarship. We're not thinking about tomorrow's game. We're not even thinking about 5 pitches next. We're not looking back in the future. We're present. We're in the moment. And as athletes, we know that's the flow state. How can we get in that flow state more? Be more present. Okay. So couple of different things there, but respond, breathe, worry about your own controllables. I refer to as the inner scorecard. I took this from Warren Buffett, the billionaire investor. And he talks about just understanding your inner scorecard and grading yourself on what you can control daily. For a baseball player, that is, did I have a good approach walking to the plate? Did I swing at the pitch I wanted to? Yes. If you said yes to both of those, then you check the box. You did what you said you wanted to do. That builds trust. If you got away from that, then you didn't control what you could. Okay. But if you lined out twice and you stuck to your routine and your process, you shouldn't have any concerns about your day. And that's where the outer scorecard comes into play, the trap, right? Where it's like, I barreled 2 balls, but all of a sudden I'm now 0 for 2 in the stat sheet. And now it's wearing on me a little bit more. That is when the 0 for 2 becomes an 0 for 4 or 8, because you try to start to chase it. Stick to your process, stick to your routines. That's the best type of player, who has that growth mindset. So a little bit more recruiting here, and I'll answer any questions if there's anything in here. Um, so summer ball. Let's talk about a little strategy summer ball wise. Is remember, I don't know who you are and what your son's like, but the academic camps. If you feel like your son is going to is academic and you guys take put emphasis on the academic piece and he's maybe above a 3.7 GPA and he's taking honors or APs, whatever that situation may be, then you should target the academic schools. Now, the toughest situation here is the senior, the 2020, well, let's just call it the 2027. Um, and he's going into his final summer to where you have to think about like you only have so many weeks of the summer. And it's going to be tough. Like you go to a show ball camp or a diamond sports, I think it's called, or somewhere where there's multiple schools there, that is a good bet for you. Okay. Now, with that being said, if you're targeting a certain geography out on the Midwest or East Coast with fitting those academic schools, you need to head that direction. If you want to be more on the West Coast, head that direction. Like we can't necessarily say, hey, I'm a West Coast type guy. I'm going to the East Coast for one weekend of a camp in front of 75% East Coast schools. If they like you, they're going to say, we need you to come back out to this school or to our school for a specific camp. Okay. It's really rare unless you're the pitcher who, has a great, velocity. I don't like to put numbers on it, but like he goes to a show ball camp and he's touching 91, then multiple schools are probably going to move on you that weekend and don't necessarily need to see you again on the field. They're going to want to get to know you, so on and so forth. But for everybody else, they're going to say, we want to see you more. And if you get seen in the beginning of the summer, then schools are probably going to want to like track you and follow you along for the rest of the summer because they also want to see who else is out there, right? And so you have to think about it from a recruiter standpoint is, okay, I just saw little Johnny, man, he was really good. Not quite good enough to where we're going to offer today, but we're going to put him on that high follow list. We're going to call him, email him, track him, whatever it is. We might see him again at a certain tournament. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we saw 4 or 5 other little Johnnies we liked. Let's go on the board and let's see who ranks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then let's start to go after the number 1 guy. Great. Number 1 guy. Oh, he committed somewhere else. Number 2 guy. Oh, he's interested. Well, let's get with the number 3 guy just in case number 2 guy goes somewhere else. And that's how it works. And so you might be like, oh, I'm the number 5 guy. They seem like they're interested, but they're not. Do your due diligence, follow up accordingly, and then just stay a little persistent with it, right? Show them that you really want to go to that school. And then all of a sudden, maybe they're 1 through 4, maybe they're 1 through 3, committed elsewhere, and it's between 4 and 5. But little Johnny's been saying, I want to be a Spartan, I want to be a Spartan, I want to be a Spartan. And they're like, shoot, this guy really wants to go to our school. Let's make it happen. That could be a situation. Okay. And so I mixed in there on that one top, kind of you probably missed it, but like you go to a camp with a lot of schools, they're going to want to see you again at their camp. And so expect to go to that camp. So when you plan your summer, this is my advice here, is you're going to be thinking, okay, let's go here, 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 here in July. Let's go here, here in August. And then it's like, wait a second, we went to July and now these schools are telling us we should go here or we need to go to there to be seen. You're going to have to pivot, right? And it could, you might have a down payment on some form of hold for a camp, whatever it is. Like it's always shifting and it kind of goes like 3 weeks at a time, 4 weeks at a time. So you got to stay on your toes a little bit and stay proactive about it and make tough decisions. Hey, we can't go to this tournament because good opportunities here. Let's see what it's like. Okay. In terms of the camps, right? Like, don't forget, those are good opportunities to develop. Not only because you're going to be playing in front of schools, right? So maybe the awareness, and I don't like to call them nerves, but the excitement is risen a little bit for the player because he knows he's got to go out and have maybe a good weekend. You have to think like, I'm still developing here. How can I use this weekend to my advantage over the long haul. And so that's the question I always want you to ask yourself. How is this going to help us develop? Okay. Not this is the biggest event. I have to do the best and then just forget about it. Like keep working the process, keep improving, and do what you're supposed to do that weekend for sure. Take a little water here. Subscribe if you haven't. Put a question in the chat. I'm going to go for about 5 more minutes. I'll answer anything in the chat. I appreciate you guys being here. In the chat, I put that link to my website. Enter your email on that. Let them be free PDF ebook, and you'll get it for free. Okay. I'm also offering for this Hitter's Journey Journal. If you click on this on the website and you use the promo code YouTube, then you get 20% off. Okay. And I'll ship it out to you this week. Those are for the live guys. People that come back to this, I'm not sure if I'll get that under promise, over deliver. I'll get that out in a week, but typically it takes 3 to 5 business days and I'll get it. So where I kind of want to close is in terms of where you are. I'm kind of give you an example of like a player who's maybe a sophomore, who maybe a junior, sophomore, junior, who's fighting for some playing time at his school. And whether he goes to a good school or an average school, like he's still developing, but he's got the dream because he's told you over the past couple of years that he wants to put all his eggs in the basket and go for baseball. Great. Awesome. That's amazing that a kid wants to have the passion to work for something. And so what do? We want to get the scholarship, but he's not playing for his team, or he's not doing as well as he needs to do. It's always about the development, always about the development of that product. That product has to keep working, improving, iterating, and adjusting and sharpening. And in the end, the best product will get bought. And that is, if your son's good enough, a school wants your product. He wants your son. And so you have to continue to develop and keep the mindset that, hey, and this is kind of like, I'm not telling you how to parent, but parents need to echo this a little bit more, because the truth is that your son just doesn't really listen to you as much as you would like. And the funny thing is that I talk to parents all the time. The players that end up working with me, and I talk to the parents, they're like, you're saying 90% of the things that we say. He just listens to you because you've done it before, and he doesn't listen to us as a parent. And if anybody has a solution to that with my young kids as they get older into, those teenage years here in, 5, 10, 15 years, please let me know so I could have my kids listen to me, from that side of it. And so we have to always continue to bet on ourselves and to build that self-belief within your household. And if you could reassure your kid to say, hey, this is going to be a bumpy road. Okay. But what I really want you to do is I want you to continue to get better every single day. And I want you to think about your senior year, whether that's a year from now or 5 years from now or 2 years from now. At the end of your senior year, if you work day by day and just improve 1%, then at the end of your senior year, you'll have a place to play. And bet on it and believe it. And then that way you're putting the focus on the growth, and everything else that comes along with it is just a good surprise. And it's a good learning moment. Whether he fails and he doesn't play his freshman year in high school, like Michael Jordan got cut from varsity, good, no problem. I just need to continue to be good for my senior year, the end of my senior year. Think of it as like a test, the finish line. You're going to be graded at the end of your senior year at the end of the season. And that way, that puts on the mindset of like, I'm betting on myself. I'm working harder. I'm gonna have perseverance, and I'm just gonna keep getting better with a chip on my shoulder. And I tell you, as a recruiter, if you have those qualities, those guys get to play a little bit more than the guy who thinks he's got it figured out. And he was the big scholarship type of guy, or he's getting the NIL money. Like, you got to have a chip, you got to have an edge. And that's how you become the 5%er. that gets the opportunity. So continue to play the long game, continue to develop, continue to ask the questions that, hey, is this going to help my son? And that could be a travel ball team dilemma. That could be a coaching dilemma, whatever it is. But go ahead and fine tune your circle, because who you surround yourself with are the people you're going to act like and the opportunities you're going to get. Let's see here what's going on in the chat. All right, let's see here. We got right there. What is your point of view on investing in combine style showcase when you're not sub 760 or 100 in extra velo and your strengths are harder to measure? Yeah, the intangibles. So what is the point of the view on investing in combine style showcase when you're not a sub 7? So the whole showcases idea is it's data, and what gets measured gets managed. So for example, like if you feel, first off, generally, I wouldn't necessarily go to a showcase if you're a 7-4 and you play, maybe I'll take that back. I wouldn't necessarily go to a showcase if you're not ready to be recruited. How do I know if I'm not ready to be recruited? Well, are you one of the better players on your team? Did you have a good season? Are you, not to say put size on it, but are you out of shape? Do you look like a baseball player? Like, there's a lot of tangibles that go into it, right? Like, you have to pass the eye test of some form of it. If you say, well, my son's undersized, like, the intangibles don't always get measured, like, well, you just have to continue to play and build strengths within your coaches to help him win. And then that coach will say, hey, college coach X, this guy will help you win. Well, that's music to my ears, because as a coach, you got to win. And so I would say if you're not necessarily a sub 760, that's okay, right? Like if you're a 7-7, you better do one thing really well that grabs the attention of some form of showcase style. Okay. Not a lot of people hit the ball over 100. I just attended a showcase at Stanford from PBR that was 120 kids. And there were plenty of players that ran above a 7.0. There were plenty of players that didn't hit the ball above 95. Do those players get recognition or stand out? No, but it's not always about that, right? It's about understanding what your data is so that you can get back to work and understand, hey, I'm going to do this again in 6 months or a year and see if I can improve on my metrics. And you will, because of strength and size and experience and maturity. So you just have to think about, like, why are you going to the showcase? Are you going out there to get one tweet? I'm not sure if it's worth it. Are you going out there to get your feet wet and get in front of a lot of different people and get on a field and have all the eyes watch you and gain some experience? Okay, got it. And as a byproduct, get your data. Cool. Like that's a valid reason. If you're not even close to being recruited, then don't go. Okay. As a recruiter, did you prefer high school athletes play multiple sports? Absolutely. No doubt about it. 100%. I was actually just talking to, I mentioned I do a podcast, it's all on my YouTube, but this series is specifically, the podcast is called Success Leaves Clues. And the series is called The Athlete's Porch. And it started on my porch. And I live by Stanford campus. I went to talk to this player, Torrin O'Haron. He's a senior pitcher. He was a football player in high school, early commit to Stanford. Long story short, I thought he said it really well, and I'm probably going to butcher exactly how he said it. But he said, playing multiple sports, he said, by playing football has helped me become a better baseball player, and playing baseball helped me become a better football player. And he went on to say his mentality by playing different sports allowed him to develop a mentality that he brings to baseball. And so that's one example. The next example is you get a baseball player who's playing another sport. There's athleticism there, right? And the data shows, the research shows, I can't quote exactly who said it, but the research shows like multi-sport players in youth to high school, as high school goes up, might go a little bit further than the guy who specialized in just one sport. And that was, they went on to like the Olympic elite level, like people winning gold medals, played multiple sports. The best prospect, during the high school or teenage years kind of fizzled out and didn't win it as much, in the long run, right? And it's about playing the long game. Terrence, how we doing? Just dropped in to listen. Everything you have said is so true. I wish my son had connected with you earlier. For those parents listening, are just beginning the process. Listen to JK. Appreciate it, Terrence. Hope you're doing well. If there's no other questions in here, then I'm going to, end the chat. Follow along. I'm on Instagram, John Karsich. As I said in the beginning of the chat, subscribe here. Head to my website to see a little bit more about what I do. I'm thinking about doing these live things a little more frequently. Any feedback is welcome, as I'm a big believer in constructive criticism. And so it helps give direction. Might burn a little bit, but that's okay. Then it gives us direction on the next thing. That's how I coach. That's how I take it. I like to give the feedback so we have direction on where to go. So appreciate you guys. Take care.